looking for affordable, high-quality watercolors, Rosa Gallery sets have probably come across your radar, and today I'm diving into two of their curated sets, the Landscape Set and the Botanical Set. I'll be unboxing them, swatching, painting, and sharing my honest thoughts on the quality, performance, and who I think these sets are best suited for. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you which brand I think offers the best of both worlds, intensity and that magical granulating, separating texture at a really accessible price. Before we dive in, if you've tried Rosa Gallery paints or have one of their sets, I would love to hear your experience. So pause the video and leave me a quick comment below. Let me know which set you've used and what you think of it. Also, if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Irit. I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist based in Austria, in Europe, and let's get into the video. Rosa Gallery watercolors are all about price to quality. These paints remind me of other Eastern European brands. They have a creamy consistency, they come in full pans, and they feel really lovely to use. There's nothing flashy or revolutionary about them, but they are solid, reliable, artist-grade paints, and that alone makes them a fantastic value. Now let's get into the specifics, starting with the Landscape Set. The Landscape Set comes in what I like to call the Goldilocks tin, the same size you'd get with a 24 half-pan set. It's my personal favorite size, not too big, not too small. Inside, you get 21 full pans arranged in 3 rows of 7, which completely fills the box. It is flexible because you can switch in different pan sizes if you want, and other brands will also fit this tin. One thing worth mentioning is that the pans come individually wrapped, and on each wrapper you'll find the color name, pigment information, and light fastness rating. Once you unwrap them though, the pans themselves have no marking. So I definitely recommend either writing the color names on the side of each pan with a Sharpie or making a swatch chart to keep track of which color is which. The wrappers do have perforated edges, so technically you can cut and leave part of the label attached to each pan, but that can get messy over time. If you want to try that, just be extra careful while unwrapping. Each set also comes with a watercolor swatch sheet that fits perfectly inside the tin. I highly suggest you swatch the paint in the order they are arranged in the tin. Actually, that's not true because they're not arranged in perfect rainbow order. So I would switch the order before swatching them, but that's just me. But you definitely want to swatch them in whatever order you decide to arrange them. It'll save you so much time later, and you can even laminate it for durability. The color selection is basic, but really well thought out, and it actually reminds me of the Daniel Smith Ultimate Mixing Set and the Aquarius Mixing Set by Roman Schmal. These are curated for maximum versatility, and this Rosa set follows the same idea. You can create almost any color from this palette, which makes it a great all-purpose option. Personally, I'd replace the titanium white with buff titanium, and I do miss a bright pink, but that's just my taste, and that switch is very easily achievable. Most landscape sets don't include the colors that I mentioned, so it's really more of a personal preference. Let's talk a little bit about the individual colors in this set. As I said, this is a very basic, versatile set, and you can see it has a cool lemon yellow and a warmer yellow. It has white, both sets have white. Then it has flame red, which is a very orangey red. Bright red is quite primary, I would say. And then we have carmine and madder red, which are more on the pinkish side. They're not pink enough for me, but you can definitely pink them up a little bit or adjust them to your liking with the violets and the blues in this set. Then we have 3 greens: olive green, green, and emerald. This is actually a really nice selection. It gives you a lot of versatility. Personally, I love olive green, and it's usually a color that I have as a convenience color in my palettes anyway, so I'm not mad about that choice. And then the other 2 greens are very kind of basic options. Then we have 3 blues. We have bright blue, which is basically phthalo blue. We have cerulean blue, which is more of a softer, natural blue, a great option for a landscape set. And of course, the classic ultramarine. That one is a must. It's granulating, it's super classic, and I think it belongs in every set. Then we have indigo, which again, I'm not mad for this choice because I love indigo, and this is not a bad one. I have a whole video dedicated to like my favorite indigo colors, so I invite you to check that out. And then we start with the earth tones. Now that is not really my cup of tea, but they did include here my favorite earth tone, which is yellow ochre. I actually used that one a lot. I didn't used to, but I really fell in love with it in the last couple of years. So it is a part of every palette of mine. And then we have a really classic selection of earth tones. We have umber, we have burnt sienna, which is nice. Maybe I've seen ones that are a bit more intense, but you could work up the application and, add some glazes and layers to intensify it. Then we have English red, which is super intense. If you love that color, then you'll enjoy it in this palette. And then we have sepia and a black that is quite intense and probably should be used very carefully. Now let's look at the botanical set. The botanical set includes 35 full pans, and I'm quite impressed with how balanced this set is. You get a great variety: yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, purples, blues, greens, and earth tones, and nothing feels repetitive, which is really rare in large sets where sometimes you have so many redundant colors. I probably would have skipped one of the reds just because I don't use a lot of red, but that's just my preference, and I wouldn't really know what to replace it with. If you love florals, you'll really enjoy the beautiful selection of pinks and reds. That's what drew me to the set. I paint a lot of pink flowers, and it's just so satisfying to have them ready to go. Like the landscape set, all the pans come individually wrapped with pigment and color info printed right on the wrapper, and you get a swatch sheet that fits in the tin. Super helpful for keeping everything organized. My only downside with this palette is the size and the weight. It's not the palette I'd leave open on my desk all the time, but if that's not a problem for you, this is a very generous and inspiring set, and I just really love it where you can dig in and paint a lot without getting too precious, which can really happen, if you use, for example, some Primatech Daniel Smith paints where every tube, especially in Europe, costs 15 euros, 20 euros to get such a set that you can really abuse and not care too much. You can paint with your kids. It has a lot going for it, I would say. Okay, so it's also worth noting that there's quite a bit of overlap between the two sets. In fact, there are only 3 colors in the landscape set that don't appear in the botanical set. Bright blue, which is basically a phthalo blue, and there's a version of it in the botanical set, so not a huge difference. English red, which is very intense reddish earth tones. Some artists love it and some don't use it as much. It can be a bit hard to control because it's so intense. And then we have neutral black, which doesn't appear in the botanical set, but there is a color called black grape in the botanical set that could serve the same purpose. So unless you have a very specific reason there's definitely no reason to buy both. The Botanical Set includes almost everything. Now you're seeing me swatching all of the colors in the Botanical Set. There are 35 colors, and it comes, as you saw, in this big tin with 5 rows of 7 colors each. And the colors are, as I said, really well balanced. There's a nice selection of yellows, a nice selection of oranges and orangey reds. Then there are more primary reds, and then there are a few great pinks, some purples, violet, quinacridone violet, which is beautiful, quinacridone lilac. Then we have some greens, all of them quite different. The blues, again, a really nice selection. There's one turquoise and indigo, again included in this set. And then we have a bunch of earth tones, which can be wonderful when you're painting florals. But again, I don't think this set has to be just for botanicals, because it would also work wonderful for any subject that you like to paint. To test them both, I created a quick landscape sketch and a floral still life, and they were really a pleasure to use. The colors are super intense, they re-wet beautifully, and they're just enjoyable to work with. I usually spray my palette first, and I always recommend that, but these are so easily re-wettable, it's not absolutely necessary. Now, as someone who's very particular about granulation and separation, I did find myself missing some of those magical textures and my favorite colors. If that's your thing too, then I highly recommend the Aquarius sets by Roman Schmal. They're a bit more expensive, but that they offer that extra sparkle and pigment personality without being out of reach price-wise. Of course, you could also get a set of Rosa Gallery and then just switch a few colors with individually bought Aquarius watercolors. That would be a very budget-friendly option that gives you the best of both worlds. So, who are these sets for? I would say Rosa Gallery is ideal for beginners, for anyone looking to get into artist grade paints without overspending, or even for experienced artists who want a second set they don't feel precious about. You get a ton of paint in high quality, and you can buy individual pans to replace your favorites later on. Personally, I would go with the landscape set if I had to just pick one, mainly for the size and practicality. I would make some adjustments though, because I need my hot pinks. But both sets offer great value and flexibility. If you already know your color preferences, you might prefer building your own palette. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and you want a curated set to just open and paint, then these sets by Rosa Gallery really delivers. Of course, this is not sponsored if this was not clear. I bought these from my own money, and these are my opinions. Before we wrap up, I wanted to let you know that my course, The Creative Lens, is currently available with a special YouTube-only offer. So this is an entire, I call it the Creative Lens project. It is 2 reference books of ebooks of copyright-free images, which you can use to paint whatever you want. And there is a library of videos. There are currently more than 30 videos. The regular price is 99 euros, but I'm giving a special code to YouTube viewers to take 20 euros off those. That's just 79 euros. If you're interested, make sure you check the link or go to yourcreativelens.com and use the code YouTube20 to get that 20 euros off. I'd love to hear what you think. Are you more drawn to the landscape or botanical set, or do you have a favorite watercolor palette that you keep going back to? Leave me a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I will be doing a swatching and going through my own palette, which taken me years to curate because I'm very specific with colors and it is ever changing, and I haven't shared it in quite some time. So it'll be fun to do another share. So make sure you're subscribed because that is coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you again in another video very soon. Take care. Bye bye.